Welcome to the DIY Writer Show with the mild-mannered, slightly heroic host, Jeff Bacon.
This is Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer Podcast. Today we have a treat. We have John Rosenman. John has written 20 novels, 20 plus novels, just a ton of them. Sci-fi and fantasy author, and he is also an English professor. So we're going to get into all sorts of conversations about society, past authors, his books, of course, and anything else that happens to come up. So
that's 250 short stories.
250 shorts?
At least.
Wow.
I've been around a long time.
Well, 250. So when did you start writing?
I think I was scribbling in the womb. That's how far back it went. But even when I was a little kid, my father used to tell me stories, and I listened to the radio and Inner Sanctum at night in the darkness. And when I was 6 or 7 or early, I would scribble using a crayon, make out panels and make up stories in my head. So I've been doing it all my life. When I was in high school, it accelerated. And I started to submit my first stories in my early 20s for publication. Wow. They were turned down, of course. But so I've been doing it more than 6 decades.
Wow. Well, the first thing we should do up front, is we should plug your books. And you have the Starfighter Chronicles that came out, and it's a box set. That came out on the 8th of October this year.
Yes.
And then you have the book Crash, which came out November 24th, which is the 6th book in that series. So why don't you talk a little bit about that real quick?
I'd love to. The series was largely inspired by a novel called The Forever War by Joel Haldeman. And the premise was that you have soldiers, and one soldier in particular, the POV character, who is engaged in a war for the humans against alien invaders. And time dilation factors in. So the faster you move in a ship, the more slowly you age. So compared to other people, he's about 1,000 years old.
Okay.
Which would make it hard to go back home and say, "Hi, Mom," because they're all long, long gone. So I came up with the idea of one-upping this prize-winning novel, award-winning novel, and creating a character who is more than 3,500 years old, and ages during the course of the series. His name is Turton, and humanity has been invaded by virtually invincible aliens who are remorseless and without concern for the devastation and misery they cause. And the novel focuses upon Turton, who continues to live, and he's the best humanity has to offer, the best hero. And his job is to travel on freeze ships in suspended animation from one post to another to find a weapon or device that can somehow turn the tide against these aliens who are really, it's a one smackdown after another after humanity, and we're just about ready to go belly up.
Okay. So he's got to find this weapon. As I was listening to you, I was thinking about all the sci-fi, the older sci-fi type stuff. And
that's me. Golden age of science fiction. I was inspired by that.
I was just going to ask that. What, was it the War of the Worlds? I mean, that type of stuff?
Yeah, the War of the Worlds I read, and especially the movie. The War of the Worlds.
Okay.
The movie in 1953, when I just turned 12, Jeff, I was sitting in a chair in the theater, and the ship comes down, and these 3 men walk toward it, and then the cylinder of the meteorite is starting to unscrew, and they're walking toward it with this white flag, and I thought, "Oh shit, don't go there!" and he flew. I thought, I was so scared as a cylinder. You see the silver outside of us. I was so scared, and I was hooked right then and there. I was hooked. But I was given Amazing Science Fiction, I believe, was the magazine, a year subscription to that. And my friend one of my friends introduced me to Ray Bradbury,
Oh, sure.
the Martian Chronicles, the Illustrated Man, Richard Matheson,
Mm-hmm.
the Incredible Shrinking Man. And I was indoctrinated, brainwashed, addicted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's followed me all the way through into adulthood.
Hmm.
And now I read big collections like this, the year's best science fiction,
Okay.
which is more updated, more sophisticated. And let me put that back on the shelf. And I liked science fiction horror too. The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh my God.
Especially the original in black and white. And the McCarthy era.
Yep.
And so that goes a long way to explaining the guy I am today.
The Invasion of the Body Snatchers freaked me out when I was a kid. And
Yes.
I didn't see the black and white one. I saw the color one.
That's very, very good. In general, that's rated higher, but I love black and white.
Yeah, I do too. I can't even remember. I think we will. Do you remember before VHS, they had those big, huge discs that they had?
Yep.
Yeah. That's what we rented it on. We had to drive 25 miles to go get this disc.
Yes.
You'd rent like 10 or 12 of them or whatever.
You're talking about 8 tracks?
No, they weren't 8 tracks. There were these, like I said, it was this big, it looked like a record, like a vinyl record.
Yeah.
And it was basically a video player. And like I said, it was before VHS.
Maybe you go back further than I do, Jeff.
I don't think so. I grew up in South Dakota, so we didn't have quite the technology you probably had where you're at, but it was like early 80s, kind of, whatever. And that's where I first saw the Invasion of the Body.
I think I saw them.
And it was like, it just freaked me out. Those little pods, you go to sleep. And of course, I tried not to sleep that night, but
and don't forget Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That one, that was another one. I saw that when I was a little bit older, but still freaky.
Yeah, I used to be, get ready for this, chairman of the board of the Horror Writers Association.
Oh, cool.
Writers.
Did you write horror?
I wrote horror. Hell yes, I wrote horror.
Oh.
I've published quite a bit of horror, science fiction horror, erotic horror. If you check
really?
the Hot Blood series, I'm a bad dude. I've been everywhere. Erotic horror. Check the Hot Blood series and other collections.
Hot Blood series. Okay.
Yeah. I've written metafiction.
Really?
Humorous metafiction.
Okay.
You know what that is?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm just writing show notes, but so you've hit you've hit a wide variety of genres.
An assortment of paranormal. I've tried to work just about a little bit of everything in. I haven't gotten to romance yet, or straight detective, but mysteries. But I have written science fiction mysteries or science fiction novels with strong mystery components or elements in them.
Well, how hard do you think it would be to actually write a straight thriller without a science fiction or a horror component in it? Some people have a talent for that, but I think it really depends on your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Straight for me, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is with me, I guess I'm not completely comfortable in the real world, if that makes sense. I have to invent another worldly one. I've only written 2 novels that I'm trying to think of 2 novels that take place in the real world, and that's because they're based on my personal experiences with them. One was I taught at a black college. I found problems there, and I wrote a novel called The Best Laugh Last, which required me to move on from two universities, if I can put it that way, because I could not have remained there. But they were critical and they were based on my real life experiences. So that's one novel I wrote. Generally, I like to create a world of reality which is different from this one. So a straight thriller might be difficult for me, but don't count me out. I might try it yet.
You got plenty of time, man.
Oh, yeah.
You got plenty of time.
Yeah.
So let's just go back a little bit. So you wrote, what was the name of that book again? I'm sorry. That ended up, you had to move on from one college.
The Best Laugh Last. I wanted the title Down from Oz. But he thought the publisher thought Down was the downer with readers. Never mind that there was a book called Watership Down.
Right.
It was called The Best Laugh Last, and it was about a white English teacher in a small black Southern college, straight, and inspired largely by my own experiences with some make-believe thrown in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tell-all book, an insider book. And after I'd written it, and it had been accepted, I was sitting home one day and I said to my wife, Jane, oh my God, what have I done? And she said, I told you not to do it. I warned you about the consequences. But I did move on, and life continued as usual, although I was out of work for a while.
Yeah.
So and that was one. What was the other one I wrote? Oh, yes. Little show and tell here. This is called The MerryGoRound Man.
Okay.
Not a bad cover. It's available in ebook, audiobook, paperback, hardback, and it's about three boys growing up in the 1950s. And I'm one of them. Guess who I am? Well, of course, I've gone through a sea change. And one of the main character, although there are three boys, has two great gifts. One of them is he could be a great impressionistic painter. The only problem is he has an Orthodox Jewish father. You don't do that. The other great gift is he could be a world champion boxer. No one could stand up to him.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine having two gifts like that and having to choose. And anyway, it's called The MerryGoRound Man, and it all stemmed from the experience I had when I was just 12 years old, sitting on a merry-go-round outside my school.
Yeah, I don't even think they have merry-go-rounds at schools anymore.
No,
they're too dangerous.
They're history, pretty much. You know, I don't know, do they have them at McDonald's anymore? All that litigation going on? You fall off? Yeah,
I don't know what they're going to end up doing, because most of those places have closed down their play areas after the corona.
Yes.
So I don't know if they're going to keep them open or what they're going to end up doing here, but I know
you talk about writing horror.
Yeah.
The corona virus is fuel for that. One of my stories, which won a Reader's Poll Award, called The Blue of Her Hair, the Gold of Her Eyes, is about a woman who contracts this mysterious, nameless disease that fills people with horror. And we don't know what it is.
Okay.
And I wrote this. You talk about life, art imitating life. Well, sometimes life imitates art, the other way around.
Right.
I wrote this, and then years later, I contracted this nameless disease, and I was wasting away. And I was covered by a mysterious red rash, which itched like crazy, Jeff, at night.
Okay.
And I was down to 120 pounds. What could it be? It turned out I have, drum roll here.
Okay.
I have celiac disease.
Okay.
Celiac disease. And so I've been treating it with a proper diet and medication ever since. And then, of course, we have the virus. So
yeah, celiac's, everything I know about it, it's not it sucks.
It sucks in a major way.
Yeah,
it really does. And but I'm a survivor of it. It's just I can't eat certain things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the major thing I have to watch for. Like we're going to have a get together for tennis, and people are going to exchange gifts, you know, and everybody's going to have a cupcake from Sam's. And I was saying to my wife last night, I can eat that cupcake, can I? She said, hell no, you can't. So even a little thing like that, you have to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of friends who have it, and watching their chronicles, it's like, yeah, just kind of like, oh geez, you know, there is, and they find enjoyment in life in other things. I mean, I get it. You deal with what you have to deal with, but from my perspective, I'm like, oh God, that would that would change my life.
Yeah. Fortunately, I can still chase women. Well, I've been married 53 years. So.
Well, then I don't think you can.
No. I'd be dead.
I was just gonna say that's taking your own life in your own hand. Your life in your own hands. There, I don't know that. Although, you know, when you get up there in age, I guess it doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't. You can still watch though. Still look. Be a girl.
Still look. Window shopping's not a problem.
It's still legal.
That's hilarious.
Are you married?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I've got a 30-year-old. I've got a 20-year-old. I've got a 3-year-old, and I've got an 8-month-old.
You've got a 30-year-old.
Same wife. Same wife.
I have to work you into a story. 30, 20,
3
and 3 months.
No, 8
wow,
months.
Jeff.
8 months.
8 months. Wow.
Yeah, she was born April 3rd, 2020.
Wow. That's great. That's
I like
really
to hit
great.
every generation, you know.
The Generation Man would be the title, perhaps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It'd lose interest after about 3 chapters, but that, you know, you'll have to make up something good.
Yeah. What else would you like to know?
So we talked a little bit about your books and the everything that you did. Let's talk a little bit about being an English professor and writing.
Yeah.
You know, I've had teachers on that worry about the problems that you've faced. You know, writing a book and getting canned, and some of them don't worry about it so much, you just kind of do it, and other ones they actually, you know, create very secret pen names and write what they write. They write conspiracy theory type stuff and political type stuff that they don't want associated with their name, but they write it anyway,
right,
in fear of being fired for having the wrong opinion, I guess, or whatever. And you know, how did you deal with that?
You know, years ago, I wrote a long essay called Literary Racism. Literary Racism. And since I wrote science fiction and fantasy, which are genres, I found that there was discrimination within the groves or halls of academia against writing in these areas. But still, I didn't face the prospect of losing my job just because I did that. It was just frowned upon. But with my novel, The Best Laugh Last, oh, Jeff, I was worried about that. I really was. And I would have had to leave the first job because it was so obviously, at least semi-inspired by where I was working.
Right.
Would I change my name? Hell no, Jeff. And the reason is I want credit for what I write.
Sure. I'm
not going to hide behind a nom de plume, a pen name, although some writers are so well known by their pen names or nom de plumes, other names, that it makes no difference. But I wanted credit for that. So I had to tell it like it was. I was afraid of not only getting fired, but of getting killed. Oh. Because some of the revelations I presented of teaching at a small Black Southern college would rub people really the wrong way. I was afraid of having a cross burned in my front yard, things like that. Sure. I was afraid of what could happen to my wife and my small daughter. You never know. Well,
Right.
you see how it is today in these United States of America with this election. Some people are threatening violence and danger.
Yep.
But I went ahead and published it. I even had the gall when I was still working at the school to go on the radio and talk about it. No sense at all. But I had to move on. And then I moved on from the second job. Hell, on the second job, should I mention the school? No, I won't mention the school.
No.
I got to have a little common sense here. But it was in North Carolina. The head of my department actually took the book and went and showed it to the chancellor, who is the equivalent of the president, and said,
Right.
"What do you think of this? What do you think of this?" And so I was there for only 1 year.
Wow.
And I came to Norfolk State University, where I taught for 29 years. And that was the sound you heard in the background was that book rattling around in the closet. And I managed to conceal it enough to get promoted and then to become a full professor with tenure. I mean, you can hear the violins play in the background.
Yeah.
Full professor with tenure. But I had to deal with it,
Yeah.
and would I have done it again? Yes, I was even a little tempted to do another one, a follow-up. I thought, no, you've laid it out pretty well in the first book. Have a little common sense. But there are teachers, professors who have to worry about that.
Yep.
Will they get fired? You can get fired. Hell, you can get fired if you look at somebody the wrong way.
Right.
And if you at the next penultimate place I taught, I heard these words the first 2 days, the inner circle. Now, when you hear the words, the inner circle, that
Right.
means a click. And if they don't like the cut of your jib or the way you comb your hair or anything else, you can be there for just 1 year.
Yep.
So it's chancy teaching, because universities are largely conservative and reactionary, and they don't want a whiff of scandal or a whiff of anything
Right.
different. So I hope I've answered that question.
I think corporations are are the same way.
Yeah.
To an extent. Maybe not big corporations, but smaller companies that have, maybe just a regional reach or whatever, act about the same way. If you put something out that may look bad upon them, or they may associate with them, they will not be too happy about it. If they think that, it may be too risque or something like that. Like if I wrote
Absolutely.
erotica, I don't know that I would have been able to keep my job.
And some of my horrific erotica is, you got to be careful who looks at it.
Yeah.
I had somebody in my tennis group ask if they'd like to read one of my books to their teenage child. And I have a novel, the young adult novel I just showed you, The MerryGoRound Man. But I don't want young children to read that, even if 15 and 16. It's not the children I'm worried so much about, it's the parents.
Right.
And incidentally, I mentioned that I taught about for 40 years in historically Black colleges. Here's the major influence of that, if I can hold it up.
Yep.
That's called A Senseless Act of Beauty.
Okay.
Like the title?
I do.
You know where I got it from?
Nope.
Got it off a car bumper. A Senseless Act of Beauty. Think about that. And this is about an African world in space.
Okay.
Because I taught at historically Black colleges, I have all this background that I work into my novels and my short stories, an African content of one kind or another. And this is about a Nigerian scientist in the far future who has to rediscover his Nigerian heritage to save an African world from exploitation. Another influence in this novel is the movie The Forbidden Planet. Have you seen that? You've
No,
seen
I haven't.
that. Forbidden Planet?
Forbidden Planet. Okay.
The Forbidden Planet, yeah. It's 50s. It was a groundbreaking novel, and it starred that fellow in Naked Gun, the comedy.
Oh,
Nielsen.
Nielsen, yeah.
Yeah, and he was the captain of the ship. And on that planet, you have a deep underground complex of fabulous machines from a long vanished alien race. And I worked that into this novel. So enough of that.
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, I'm surprised you have, but it's either Forbidden Planet or I think it's The Forbidden Planet. 1950s. It's very dated in some ways, but very groundbreaking and avant-garde in others.
Well, being that I'm a mite bit younger than you,
about 2 or 3 years, maybe.
about 2 or 3 years, yeah. I find it interesting when people bring up movies and books that they've read that I've either haven't heard of, or it's like, no, I've never watched that or whatever. And my list of to be watched or to be read continues to grow with every show.
Same here.
Same here. At this point, I don't know how I'm ever going to do it, but you
can't. I'm a slow reader, and I'm surrounded by hundreds, virtually thousands of tomes, volumes.
Mm-hmm.
And especially hard to keep up when you have to write. If are you going to be a reader or a writer? Can you balance the two? It's a difficult juggling act.
I don't know how some of these people do it. I really don't. When they they read they write a ton, and they also read like a book a week, and I'm like,
I admire them.
Okay, obviously you don't have any kids, no life at all, or maybe you do, I don't know, but I can't fit it in. I read about a book a month, maybe on my good months.
That's okay.
Yeah.
If they're good books, the quality of the books is very important.
Even if they're bad, I don't.
You
I
can
don't
learn.
mind reading
You can learn a lot from bad books, and I hope I've learned a lot from some of the bad stories I've written.
Yeah.
Because I've written some doozies. Just about every writer has.
I think that, especially like when talking to somebody who's been around like you have, and I'm fairly young in the author world as far as that goes. As far as fiction, just knowing that you can write a shitty story, and as long as you learn from it, it's fine. I mean, one of my friends told me, everybody writes a really bad first book, and then probably not so good on your second book. But by the time you get to your sixth book, they get better. And if they don't, then you quit. And it's like, that's really good advice. It's just plodding through and getting through. And I think the interesting thing I'm getting from you is that not only did you plod through and write 250 stories and 20 plus novels and this and that, but you also took on some issues that took quite a bit of courage, and also cost you personally to write that, but you went ahead and did it under your name and dealt with the consequences. And I think that's something that younger authors aren't necessarily willing to do.
Maybe not. It may be because younger writers are more conditioned to want a quick reward, a quick return on their creative investment. I don't know. It's related to IT. You're an IT man with technology, with social media. In some ways, that facilitates doing something more quickly rather than sitting down and actually writing. And I grew up writing down my stories in a yellow pad, and graduated to finally doing it online. But I don't know. That's just speculation.
Oh, go ahead.
And then today with social media, people are more and more, I think, some of them want to get along want to get along, not rock the boat, and because social acceptance is so important, maybe more so than it used to be.
Well, and it's also a way wider circle. I mean, I before social media, I probably had 6 friends that I considered friends, and I still have probably about 6 or 7 friends.
You're blessed if you have that many.
Well,
Real
yeah,
friends.
I am. But it's a small circle. And then, on Facebook, you get a couple thousand people that follow you, and it's like, okay, and you end up ticking somebody off, and then they blast you a little bit or whatever. And you either develop a really thick skin and say, I don't really care. This is what I am. This is who I am, and whatever, or you let it drive you nuts. And I think that's really sad that some people worry about trying to make 2,000 people happy.
You can't.
No,
and those two people are not really your friends.
No,
most they won't come to your funeral.
Nope.
You won't see them sitting out there. But let's see, what else can I take? By the way, what do you write?
I write dark fiction,
Good
dark
for
fantasy.
You. Good for you.
Grim, dark, and horror.
Good for you. I'll have to look you up.
Oh, don't look me up yet. I haven't written any good novels yet.
Okay. But
I won't. They're all right. I mean, they're my first books. I've got some, it's one of those things where it's what I want to do, and it's way better than technical writing or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm learning, so I'm just beginning. But I've only been actually writing fiction for about 5 years, published for 3. So I mean, it's
Okay. Well, you started doing it a little bit later.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I started in my mid 40s.
Okay.
Which
Speaking about beginnings, you want to see my first science fiction novel?
Absolutely.
Okay, a little more show and tell. This is called Beyond Those Distant Stars.
And that's your first one?
That's my first one. It was published about the same time as, let's see, what was the other? Oh, The Best Laugh Last. Originally, I had 2 publishers with this. This is now in the 3rd publisher. 1, 2, 3, count them.
Okay.
Crossroad Press again. It's available in the audiobook, in print, and originally they gave her the bust size. She had big bazooms. I mean, big bazooms. I mean, and I said, please cut her back a couple sizes. She'll tip right over with that. And that's one little story. But Beyond Those Distant Stars, and I was going to write a sequel to it. I had it all set up, Jeff, and I took it to my writers group. And I once wrote an essay called Writers Groups from Hell. Writers Groups from Hell. But I was a member of this writers group for 20 years. And I owe a great debt to them because I published several novels and dozens of stories thanks to them. But I wrote about 160 pages, and they kept saying one word, implausible or implausibility. And one day I'll go back to it, because I saw one person online who said, where's the second one? You set it up so well in the first. Alien Invasion, once again, I recommend it. One more I'll hold up. Speaker of the Shack. That's also available from...
Can you raise it up a little bit?
How's that?
There, that looks better. Okay. Cool.
Speaker of the Shack. I like that one. Available in audiobook and in print and in Kindle. 2 small books, just to give you a little sample. I said I write erotic horror. Yeah. I'm not lying. Here's one called, which I published myself. It was a Dark Kindle Desires. Unlimited. Now it's Dark Desires. Now, who did the cover?
Who did it? You did.
I did it. There are ways to put it together, but this is Dark Desires, still available. And one more. Ooh, science fiction horror called Here Be Dragons. Just a little one. You know what Here Be Dragons means?
No, tell me.
It's a nautical term for sailors. It designates an unfamiliar, uncharted area of the ocean or sea.
Okay.
And who knows what the hell you're going to find there. And this owes a debt to Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, that's okay. So you've had 3 different publishers in your career?
Let me see. Well, for my novels, you mean?
Yeah.
Or my short stories, I've had over 100
novels.
novels. I'm trying to think. I had, let's see, what was it? Trying to remember the title of the first one. Its name is, that's one. It used to be called Treacle Press, but the name has been changed. I've had Novel Books Incorporated. I've had what's this? This is Mundania Press, Use It Up Press, and my present publisher, namely, is Crossroad Press. Other presses I publish with, but that's short fiction, at least right now. So I count 5 publishers.
Okay.
I've got 5 publishers, a full house, or rather 5 of a kind.
There's a lot of people out there who, I'm indie published. I tried to deal with it, and then I got frustrated because I'm an IT and I like the short, let's just get it out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, my personal opinion is that publishers aren't going to be around all that much longer. I mean, I think they may take a little bit different stride, but I think the one thing that I see happening with a lot of authors is that, publishers want you to be confined into a genre. The smaller ones probably give you a little more leeway, but I see a lot of people kind of flirting with, several different genres within a book, or, their books may not quite constrain to what their requirements are for marketing and everything. And so they just kind of give up and they say, okay, I'm just going to indie publish. And they become fairly successful doing that. And I don't think the stigma behind indie publishing versus being traditionally published is there anymore.
No.
So, I think the only thing that really gives you an advantage by being with a publisher is that they do the marketing. They'll help you with the editing. They'll help you, there's several services that they have that they can offer you that you don't have to do on your own, which I think is really nice. But besides that, I don't know that how long that industry is going to last.
Ooh, now you're scaring me. All my publishers are going to disappear.
No, I don't think that. I mean, when I say, within the next, let's see what happens in the next, 15 years, 10 years, whatever.
I have self-published 7 or 8 small books like this one, these 2, which but I think there's some truth in what you say, certainly.
It's my opinion. So, I mean, it's not really a truth. It's more like, this is kind of what I think, but and I may be wrong.
With Music Up Publishing, they said you could publish whatever you want, pretty much. But perhaps more and more publishers are becoming specialty presses. You know what I mean? You're right in this particular type. You're right in this particular type. One thing I like about some publishers, at least for short fiction, is they say, we're going to publish an anthology like this, and we'll pay you 3 or 8 cents a word for it. Like maybe it's the Weird Wild West. There's one right now that I have a story in. I've republished the story in an anthology called Something Wicked This Way Rides. Great cover. And I published one story accepted and at 2 cents a word. That's Dark Owl Publishing. And they pay you. That's one attraction. They pay you. I mean, it's nice to be paid.
It is nice to be paid.
But I think that with the advent of social media, the rise of social media and all these platforms, there's more of a, okay, I can do it myself. I don't need this publisher. And I can be more of a free spirit and write whatever the hell I want, whatever moves me, without conforming to this or that publisher's guidelines. I think you're right. As what's important though, you know, and what bothers me is that you find a lot of self-published people online, and they don't know how to write, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know how to punctuate. They don't know how to match a subject up with a verb at gunpoint. I exaggerate a little bit. So what you need, whether you're with a traditional publisher or with an independent press or whether it's an indie press, whether you're doing it yourself, is you've got to have good criticism. You've got to have good input to what you write. And that's what I was blessed with my writers group for 20 years. But if you just write it down and you put it up there, that's one thing that's hurting publishing today, is that too many people are publishing who really shouldn't be.
Well, you know, I don't really have a problem with somebody not being able to, you know, punctuate or actually having problems forming sentences, let's say, whatever. You know, they may have a really good plot and a really good story that they can tell, and they may not be able to write really all that good. As long as they can get a developmental editor and they can get, you know, a good editor, that stuff will work itself out. That's where you get that criticism, or you have a good group of beta readers, or you use somebody else's beta readers to, you know, vet your story. It's really the community that helps you out with that. If you just throw something up without getting it edited, you know, proofed, edited, developmental edited, and then proofed again, that's not necessarily good. And even books that have been edited 3 or 4 times, you know, they'll have some mistakes in them. I mean, even the really big authors, you know, you read their book and like, oh, huh. And I actually find it very, very satisfying when I find those mistakes, because it's like, they're not perfect either. Cool. You know,
they're human as well.
They're humans. Oh my God. Feeling. Yeah. But, you know, so yeah, I see that, but I think it's one of those things where it's kind of a yin and a yang. I mean, you're going to have that, but you're also going to have a whole bunch of authors that wouldn't have been published, or maybe not published till way later, that have really great writing, have really great ideas, that they're putting out literature that needs to be acclimated, and they can't get with a publisher because publishers have schedules and rules and this and that. And, you know, the indie publishing may be a stepping stone for them to actually get published, because you can throw it out there, and if somebody reads it and say, oh, I want them in my portfolio. You know, I mean, I think the industry is evolving a bit, and I'm excited about that from one aspect, but you know,
nothing stays the same.
No,
nothing stays the same, or it dies. But to would-be writers out there, I would say that if you're going to submit your fiction, if you're going to submit whatever it is you write, be prepared, folks, to be rejected. Mm-hmm. I was rejected again and again and again and again and again. I mean, I could have wallpapered the whole damn house with rejection slips. I mean, and I still get them hand over fist. You've got to have a thick skin. You've got to be stubborn as hell. And you got to be willing to keep trying and maybe try something new. Mm-hmm. Independent publishing, though, in many ways it is a blessing, because it's democracy in action. You know, and the marketplace is an important thing. It is maybe the final arbiter as to what will fly and be successful and which won't.
Yep, I agree. I think the problem is that, you know, on Amazon, there's like 10 million books out there. I don't know. There's millions of books out there that have been uploaded and everything else. That, you know, maybe 80% of them aren't, you know, all that great, you know, but at some point in time they might be. You know, you can always rewrite it. You can always do this. You can always do that. I think the person that puts out a work and it doesn't go over well, but they have a good story and they don't rewrite it, I think they're really losing out on something there. I mean, you can always take a book down and rewrite it if you're self-published. Is it the greatest thing in the world? No, but it's part of the learning experience, I think. You know,
The story I just had reaccepted. It was originally edited,
mm-hmm.
and it was a damn good story. I have to say this. It was really good. And I sent it to this editor I know, another publisher, small press. And she said, oh, it's really good. I really love this. But there's this and this and this and this.
Okay.
And it can be improved. You know what a definition of a novel is, don't you? One definition. It's a work of fiction of 40,000 words or more with something wrong with it. You can always improve this or that.
True.
I do want to interest readers in my fiction. Hope you check me out online. But for would-be writers, you have to be stubborn. You have to ask yourself, is it a calling or is it just a hobby? How serious are you going to be about it? How dedicated will you be? That's something I had to learn after many, many years. Time and again, I wanted to quit, but I just couldn't. I kept coming back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I published one book just because I wanted to publish a book.
Sure.
I just thought it'd be cool. You know what? Bucket list. Done.
Right.
And then I liked it. And I'm like, oh, how do I do this more? And so then I started writing short stories and I started doing, just kind of messing around with the craft a little bit. And it's actually, it's writing technical papers and writing, blurbs and technical books is boring as hell. And that's that's the only writing I'd ever done, So, I mean, if you want to write about Microsoft ad nauseum, that's great.
How do you stand it? I got to ask you that. Technical books.
To be honest, I was career minded and I wanted money.
Sure.
And so, and being an IT guy, I've read every, the hardware Bible, which is a really interesting read if you're really into technology, and every book I could get on Microsoft technologies and SQL Server.
You love that stuff.
No, I don't. But
oh, you don't.
But I would read it so that I would be smarter than my competition.
Okay.
And it was one particular person that I worked for. He was my boss or whatever. He handed me a fiction book. After I used to read when I was a kid all the time. I was reading Stephen King. I was reading, I Watership Down is one of the novels that I just loved. I think I
mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. And with my grandma being an English teacher, she was always kind of, here, you should probably read this book, or whatever. And that was great. And then when I got out of college, I got out of that because I'm all serious now and I need to actually, worry about stuff that's with this career. And it was in 2008 that I was handed a fiction book and said, you should read this just for fun. You should actually read for fun. And it's like, oh, that's a concept I haven't done in probably at least 15 years. I hadn't read anything that was fiction in 15 years. And so I picked it up and I started reading it. It's like, okay, this is a series. And it was Kevin Hearn's Iron Druid series. And it's like, I loved it. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. And I started thinking, I can kind of write. I could do this. Oh, this would be fun. And I started looking at indie publishing and life happened. And some other things happened. I finally decided, I just want to write a book. I don't even care. And then I did it, and I wrote a novel, an urban fantasy novel, and put it out there. And like, okay, done. And I waited like 3 months, and it's like I want to write another one. How am I going to do this? I mean, that was just kind of a hobby thing. And so I just started.
Interesting.
Take some classes and do this and everything else. And I think, if I want to do the ifs and whats and candies and nuts type of deal with my life, I think I probably should have went down a different path when I was younger, but maybe it wouldn't have turned out the same way. But
Maybe it wouldn't.
the amount of happiness that it gives me just to do this kind of stuff and being involved in the author community and talking to authors and learning, because that's one of the things I do in this podcast is I'm not only interviewing and saying, hey, plug your stuff, but also learning from you guys is priceless to me. I enjoy it immensely, and just listening to people's stories and just talking with them is something that I love to do. And so I feel it's a part of my daily education.
Okay. How many people have you interviewed?
I just published I started this at the end of October this year, and I just published my 40th podcast yesterday.
Okay. You know, you mentioned classes before. Mm-hmm. I designed a class in writing science fiction and fantasy.
Did you?
Yeah. And that was something I love to do. Science fiction and fantasy. At Norfolk State University, I don't know if you've heard of Octavia Butler.
No.
She is the first significant and commercially successful female Black science fiction writer ever.
Okay.
And I set up I actually did set up a conference at Norfolk State on science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Oh, I was in heaven. And Octavia Butler herself came there. She was a guest of honor. I recommended her and drove her around. Okay. I mean, I've had various heroes in my life, baseball heroes.
Sure.
Some football heroes, and she was one of my heroes because when I was teaching at a Black school, I taught her 3 of them. Mm-hmm. So it was a matter of some interest to me. And one high point of my life was having her come and address the audience at this conference. Sadly, she fell outside her home, I think, when she was only 58 and died. Ooh. So Octavia Butler, but yeah, I loved designing that course because I wanted to identify and encourage a new generation of science fiction and fantasy writers who would compete with me.
You know, and I actually, and this is one of the things I kind of preach about is I don't think it's really a competition anymore. I really don't. I'm a part of a couple of groups on. Yeah, I don't.
That's good.
And I'm a part of a couple of groups. One's Indie Fantasy Addicts, and it's a group of like 4,000 people who are rabid readers. I mean, they just read, you know. And the authors of that group have their own little group that they, you know, you can post up in there, and it's it's as far as I'm concerned, it's the best group on Facebook. But it's all about reading, and it's all about, you know, what you love. And none of us are really in competition with each other. We're all kind of friends. And, you know, there's 140 different authors in there, I think, or something like that. I mean, it's a good group of authors.
140.
Wow. Yeah, about. I think that's what it is. I may be lying, but I think it's about that as far as the authors go. And what I see is these readers picking up books that may be grimdark or epic fantasy or this or that, and reading. I mean, just reading everything they can possibly consume. One thing that we did, and I'm going to go ahead and plug it here, but for Christmas we put out a free book called From the Shadows.
Raise it higher, a little higher. Okay, that's a nice cover.
Yeah, one of the authors made this, Christopher, and Christopher Russell. And this is short stories by some of us that, and I'm in this book also, but it is a Christmas gift to that group. So we're giving it away for free. It's free on Amazon, and it's a 714 page anthology. You know, it's a bludgeoning tool. It's
yes,
fun. But it's that kind of stuff because those readers are so rabidly, they support us like you wouldn't believe. And it's like, Merry Christmas, you know? So it's stuff like that just makes me think, okay, we're not really in competition with each other. I mean, people read other books, it's a matter of getting that following and people actually liking you. People have different tastes and stuff like that. But, you know, when you get a group of people like that group, and we have summer reading challenges where, you know, you get points, and then at the end of the challenge, if you get a certain amount of points and you win certain contests or whatever, you get signed books from the authors. You know,
Is it being promoted? Are you promoting it?
Well, you kind of promote it. It's really not it's more about the readers telling you what they like.
Yeah.
And then the summer reading challenge, we promote it. You don't really promote your books, but your books can be included in the reading list.
Okay.
You know, and then you put up prizes for it. So, you know, like I'll do, you know, a box set or something like that of printed books, and each one's signed or something like that. And everybody does their own stuff. They'll do posters and bookmarks and, you know, ebooks and whatever. And it is amazing to watch those people just consume literature over a 3-month period and rack up an incredible amount of points. And then the teams that are formed are actually headed up by authors of the group. So you get, you know, 15, 20 people in there that are on your team, and you get 3 or 4 authors that are working together, may not even be in the same genre, getting these people, hey, you need to read this, you need to do that, or giving them prizes or whatever.
It sounds like a community.
It is.
But let me tell you about my current project.
Okay.
If I can.
Yeah, I'm talking too much. You need to talk.
No, you're fascinating. I feel like I want to turn this darn thing around and be the questioner, because you're a fascinating guy and you raise issues that I'd like to ask about. But I do want to mention my current project.
Sure.
And it stemmed from a made-up word.
Okay.
Here it is. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Dreamfarer. D-R-E-A-M F-A-R-E-R. Write it down.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Well, I know what dreams are. Fairer.
F-A-R. I'll give you a little help. Want a little help?
Yeah, I do.
Well, you have the words seafarer. You have the word wayfarer. This is somebody who goes places, has experiences in their dreams. And it's about a future after the Third World War, World War III, in which people, when they reach a certain age, are warehoused in dream factories, in ICUs. No, CIUs, cerebral interface units. There, I got.
Okay.
And they're put there, and the dreams before they go in, they're questioned as to what they'd like to dream about. What are their major interests? And the dreams you have there are so much more pleasurable and fulfilling than real life.
Okay.
I mean, and unfortunately, though, some people become immune to it. They reject the procedure and they wake up and they're miserable.
Okay.
And they either become wakers who are terribly discontented or wreckers. And meanwhile, from this one word, I generated this whole future in which you have the conflict or war between nations, the spats between nations, transported to space, where people fight out there. And you have all this dirty stuff here. But it involves one hero who wakes up and decides that he is going to wage a war against dream factories because he feels they rob humanity of their purpose and their meaning.
Sure.
And so I'm finishing the second novel in that series called Go East, Young Man, instead of West, the first one being Dreamfarer. But this whole novel was inspired by that one made up word, and it suggests something about my method. You've heard of plotters.
Right.
And you've heard, what's the other one? Starts with a P?
Pantsers.
Pantsers. Which one am I?
I would guess you're a pantser.
You got it. Bingo. I make things up on the fly. There used to be a certain Barnes and Noble I walked through and I just happened to look around. The place just seemed to be a fertile ground for me.
Yeah.
And I would see something, and instantly an idea would leap into my head. I saw a title once which said The Calm Technique.
Okay.
And I got a title, The Death Technique, about a fellow who had the ability to decompose and look like he was dead.
Huh.
And I wrote quite a few stories. But from that one title, one word, Dreamfarer, I've generated a series. Is it any good? Oh, hell, don't ask tough questions like that. But I think it's pretty fair. But I know you feel there isn't any competition, but when I sent that out to major publishers, I had to go up against some pretty heavy hitters with sizable histories of sales. So
sure. Well, from when you're submitting it to a publisher, I would say there's competition there. Yes. Yeah. I'm basing my my experiences on being an indie publisher, that the other indie publishers that I'm with, I don't feel like I'm in competition with an Andy Pelican or D.W. Hawkins or Rachel Renner, that people that read their books, and if they like something darker, they'll actually read my books too. And it's not like, I'm worried about beating Andy, because I never will. But on the other hand, Andy Pelican's an excellent writer. I don't know if you have read his stuff or not.
No.
Well, he's pretty good. Or like I interviewed Christopher Russell the other day, and he's got a brand new novel out, and he's an engineer, and he wrote it from an engineering aspect and built a magic system and everything else. And just the amount of details, like, oh dude, I got to read that, but I mean, these authors are my friends, and I don't feel like I'm in competition with them for reading time. It's just,
Usually, if you are included in a book of stories, you're not competing very much with each other, unless your particular story, unless someone's particular story is singled out for special praise, or for an award, this or that award. But usually, you're not in competition. I'm included in a book. The title slips me. I'm memory. That's what happens when you get old. But the publisher of Crossroad Press, a friend of mine, wanted to co-write short stories with some of his friends, and I'm one of them. And we're not in competition with each other. It's just you're included as part of the collection. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I get that as far as that goes, but I mean, as far as the individual books and stuff, when they release books, I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
It's
the book you held up. What's it called again?
From the Shadows.
From the Shadows. How are you promoting that? Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. It's actually wide, so it's on Kobo, Smashwords.
They'll let you do that.
Yep.
Because Amazon is rather possessive. No, that's not right. If it's Kindle Unlimited, you can publish elsewhere.
Right. So we put it everywhere else and put it on Amazon for 99 cents, and everywhere else it was free, and then came back and told Amazon, hey, it's free over here. Can you match that deal? And they put it in their free store.
Can I give another plug?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, folks, this is direct appeal. You said the 99 cents. I have 6 short stories, which are on sale for 99 cents on Kindle.
Okay.
Please check one or more of them out. I'll be very grateful.
I see Here Be Dragons.
That's one. I held that up before. Here Be Dragons.
Bards and Sages Quarterly.
No, that's
something else.
No.
I'm sorry. The MerryGoRound Man is.
That's 99 cents, but that's a whole novel you can get as a Kindle.
Yeah.
A whole novel, 99 cents. Good deal.
A Mingling of Souls. I'm just looking at everything.
A Mingling of Souls is 99 cents.
Yeah. It's hard to go through your entire collection. You have a lot of books here.
Yeah, I do. I scribble a lot.
Only Gods and Demons. That sounds
99 cents.
Yeah.
And it's yours.
Go ahead and put that with my one click. There we go. Oh, it's going to take me off your dang page. Yeah, whatever. But I picked that one up.
Thank you very much. You've won a friend for life.
But yeah, you have a ton of books here, and you have 6 or 7 of them that are 99 cents. So I would absolutely suggest somebody go find them. But again,
one more plug.
Yeah.
I have a box set of 2 novels and 2 short stories, and it's called The Amazing Worlds of John B. Rosenman.
Okay.
Now, I got it in my defense. I'm not that vain. I'm not that full of myself. But my previous the publisher, is still published by Music Up Publishing.
Okay.
And she chose that as a title. So before you say, boy, you're full of yourself, but it's got 2 novels and 2 short stories. One of the stories is a prize winner, The Blue Over Here, The Go to Rise. That's for $2.99. That's a pretty good deal. 2 books and 2 short stories.
Yeah, I was just trying to look for it real quick. Like I said, you have an incredible amount of books up here on Amazon. But oh, there it is. There it is. Got it. Very cool. It is. Wow.
I wouldn't lie to you.
I know you wouldn't. 592 pages of pure enjoyment.
Yeah, I had my publicity director come up with that. No, I think.
Yeah. Your publicity director. Is that your wife?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is, but various publishers will do the description occasionally. But most of the time, I have to do it. The writers have to become their own promoters, their own copywriters, and so on.
You know what I found was very helpful is I took a couple of classes on Udemy or whatever it is on writing ad copy. That helped quite a bit. Just writing ads, and writing.
I could use that. I've been reluctant to do that, but I've been writing ads. Occasionally, online, somebody will object to something I've written.
Really?
You get trolls. Yes, I could talk to you for hours about that, and I don't want to single anyone out. I don't want them to come back because it'd be a nuisance. But they will find an objection, something you've written.
Sure.
I wrote once about one of my best stories. It takes place in Nauru, an island in the South Pacific. And it involves an old man and a young girl who's unattractive. And they form a bond. And I describe them as lovers, even though they're not lovers.
Okay.
And it's one of my best stories. Bagonan's wonderful songbird. I think it's really good, but I'm biased. And somebody said, oh, so you're writing now about pedophilia. The old man's a pedophile.
What?
No. And I tried to convince him that it wasn't like that at all. That's one area I don't get into. But they had it in their mind, that's what I was doing. Sight unseen, they hadn't read it. You will find all types of people out there who won't even bother to buy it, but they will pick a fight with you.
Sure.
Or squabble.
Because they have nothing better to do and they don't want to actually read the damn thing or get anything out of it. They just want to be pissy and get their little 2 minutes of I'm not even sure what it is. It's the dumbest damn thing in the world.
Your 2 minutes of fame.
It's not even fame. I mean, it's just,
There's some people who just like to cause a mess.
Right.
Just the more wreckage behind them, the more people get upset, the happier they are, the more they're vindicated and justified. Fortunately, you have a powerful tool against them. The block button. Just like that.
I was going to say common sense, but yeah, the block button works. I don't know. I think that there's a raft of people out there that I think they don't understand fiction as well as they say they do, because when you're writing something, you aren't necessarily a proponent of it, but you might be writing against it. or you might be, okay, I had this idea, I saw this and I thought it was horrible, but it'd make a really good book.
If you write a book about, and there's a racist in there, it doesn't mean you are a racist.
No, it means
you don't have to do that.
No, you might very well be, trying to shine a light on something that you find, deplorable.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the function of literature. Authors of old have done that throughout the ages, written about things that are they detest, just to make a point about it. I mean, whether it's political satire, whether it's just society in general, whether it's, go all the way back to where it's, against kings and queens and royalty or whatever. I mean, people have done this in literature for years and years and years. And all of a sudden, when people are sitting there getting butthurt over everything, they start picking on books because what? You have an opinion? Oh, great.
They don't understand or don't choose to understand the nature of fiction.
Right. And, it's a device that can, shouldn't say will, but it, has in the history of the world has changed society, either for the better or for the worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something that it's part of a person's education.
Absolutely. And it used to be that reading was the most important activity in people's lives. It still is. I see cartoons online about it's better than sex, it's better than romance, it's better than just having time to read. I'd like to read, if I could, just one sentence.
You can do whatever you want, dude.
Okay.
No rules.
No rules. Wow.
No rules.
You're my kind of
interviewer.
Yes. Here it is. About what do I write about? Two of my major themes are the endless, mind-stretching wonders of the universe.
Okay.
And the limitless possibilities of transformation, sexual, cosmic, and otherwise. With regard to transformation, I find myself returning to that again and again.
Mm-hmm.
It's endlessly, it's an endless resource for my imagination, people changing into different things and so on. Sometimes shocking and endless mind-stretching wonders of the universe. Well, the universe is a pretty darn big place. and it just happens that something you think of, no matter how far-fetched, may be actually happening out there among the stars somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two themes or interests that have often guided what I write.
One of the things that really I found interesting is when I was growing up, Star Trek was kind of this thing that kids watched.
Yep.
Gene Roddenberry,
I watched it too.
Yeah. And the types of things that he tried to attack with his shows, was lost on me as a kid. But as it was explained to me as I grew up and looking at how really bold he was with certain, whether it be racism or even some of the technology that he thought, this is the way it'll be in the future, whatever he saw that you kind of see coming true. It really was even though it was a TV show, it was something that, as a fiction writer, you look at and I go, you know what? He did more good with that show than I realized at the time. The things that he fought, having Uhura on the bridge, a black lady that was
and an Asian
an Asian.
And I mentioned a movie to you before, the Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
But the crew consisted entirely of white men. It's groundbreaking in some ways, but in others it's reactionary. It's very, very conservative. But yeah, Star Trek was, it took chances. It presented, it was more realistic in some ways.
Right. And not that that's something that I look at it as, hell, if he could do that back then, there's nothing that I can't do right now. And kind of like with your story, I mean, you've taken lots of chances and paid the price for it.
Yep.
But yet, you persevere, you fight through it. You go through all the rejections, you go through getting, canned and having to kind of,
Yeah.
rebuild yourself and find a landing spot for you. And you go through that in life, but
Yeah.
the risk that you take is worth it. It really is.
You have to do it. 1,000 times I've said, enough already. I'm not going to write another damn word. I've had it, but I keep doing it. I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's my life's blood. You have to be willing to do that. And you have to be willing to pay the price. There will be people who won't like what you do. There will be people who interpret it the wrong way and would like to stand you up against the wall before a firing squad. And
Sure.
But as far as writing is concerned, no one ever said it would be easy. And no one ever promised me a rose garden.
Right.
It's just something you have to do. But when it's going well, it's the best thing in the world. It really is. It's there's nothing like it, especially when you're cooking in all 3 million cylinders. I don't know if you can cook on cylinders. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. Even rewriting, revision
Mm-hmm.
is wonderful if you approach it with the right frame of mind. So those are parts of writing that keep me doing it.
I agree with all of that. And then some. We're running up at about an hour and 15 minutes as far as my timer goes. Any last words for your readers, sir?
I'm glad you asked. See, when you asked that, I said, no, I'm talked out. What do I have to say? Well, I can think of something. Please visit my website. It's at http://www.johnrosenman.com. I also have a blog at johnrosenman.blogspot.com. I've got visit my Facebook page and so on, but check me out online. And let me give you my email address in case you have any questions.
Okay.
It's I have 2 actually. I'll give you 1. J.Roseman, misspelled my name. Leave out the center N, J.Roseman, ROSEMAN .cox.net. And I'll be glad to chat with you.
Okay.
Now I'm talked out.
All right. Just so you know, all the links that you have on your website and everything that you put in that you've given me will be published with this show.
Thank you.
So it'll be on the YouTube, iTunes, everything. So, they should be able to listen to it and then go down and click on whatever platform they'd like to look you up on, including a link to your author page on Amazon. Okay. So hopefully I do a good job. But you
did a good job, Jeff. This is possibly the best, most free-roaming, free-ranging interview I've ever had. I've loved it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Great host.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call this show to an end. This is Jeff with the DIY Writer Podcast. And if you would, please follow me on wherever you listen to your podcast and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Other than that, I want to bid everybody a great day and keep your chin up. Bye-bye.
Like that. Take care.
Please hit the subscribe button. I get a bonus for every subscriber and I only need 1,506 more to become a full-time paid employee. Help me please.